A warm welcome for me. I'm really happy to be here with you. This is our Queen Beatrix. Maybe you know her. Not in person, I think, but we don't know. And we have to accept that it's a fact that it is impossible to stop change. And here you see when she started as a king, as our queen, and here you see a picture that she stopped being our queen. And you see that there's a big difference. So if we think about Beatrix and we want to use her in an exhibition, we have to think, how should she look? Which time would we like to pin her down? Yeah. So there is a difference between what Bart was telling about preventive conservation, and the intention of preventive conservation is to fully stop deterioration as much as possible. And now we are doing the other thing, we are thinking about conservation. So conservation is, you've stopped the deterioration and you want to change the object back in a place where you think it's most useful in your collection. So you have to talk about it and to think about it. And I want to show you one or two models about this. So there's one thing you always have to know. You can only choose 1 or 2 times to change an object. You see here an object that was broken and the glue was not strong enough, so now it's deteriorated. And here you see a plate that was having a layer of silver on top of it, and somebody all the time was cleaning it. And now you see the copper underneath. So what I want to tell you is that if you start to do a conservation treatment, it always has impact, and you cannot do it, redo it, because then, yeah, you will come in this kind of situation. The other thing is that you have to be very aware of how am I going to treat it, what methods I'm going to use. So it would be ideal if you can retreat it again. So what you see here is a fresco. This is in Italian. And you see there is a large part missing here. And you see here that the Italian people, they made a very fine, nice retouch, which is not very visible. It will show you how it was going. And here you see they have a very blank fill. So you can see what is the original material and what is the fill. So these are 2 approaches that you can use to treat your object. And the nice thing is that you can remove this, because this is not soluble in water. This is soluble in water. So a trained conservator can easily remove this. So now I want to think about the first decision-making model. And it is developed for modern art. So you see our queen here in a timeline. So here she was a youngster. Here she was becoming a queen. Here her son, Alexander, he became king. And here you see she married. She got children. Willem-Alexander got children. And here you see the girl that is here as a full grown-up. So my question is, which queen do you want to show your audience? And if you change an object, like back into this period, it will not function probably in this period, because it is another object. And you have to think about this kind of thing when you start doing your restoration. So what we do, we first look at all the data that we can collect. Next one, we think about the condition. So what is the current condition? And then you think, what is the meaning? What is the value? So you can make a decision about where do I want to go. Most of the time, there is a big discrepancy here. So that is the nicest thing of my profession as a conservator, I think, that you have to deal with this discrepancy and to think about, what can I do? So the thing we do then, we present conservation options, and we talk about this with colleagues, most of the time the curators, to see what is possible. And then we have all our considerations. But this kind of things, you see there's also everything comes together. It takes a lot of discussion to choose the right moment so that you can make the right options and you can apply the right options. So this is a process of the treatment, and we most of the time do it in 8 steps. So this is the second model that I wanted to show you. This is like, it's made by Barbara Applebaum, and it's called the treatment methodology. And she characterized the objects, and then she reconstruct a history of the object. And that is mainly the same thing as making a timeline. So if you have that information, then you determine the ideal state of the object, and you decide on a realistic goal for the treatment. So most of the time this is this is a very important moment, because you really have to be sure that you treat it in a way that it will serve the exhibition or that it will serve the museum. So next thing, you choose the treatment methods and the materials. And afterwards, if you finish, you prepare pre-treatment documentation. Due to this kind of documentation, you can hopefully retreat it in the future. Then you carry out the treatment and you make the final treatment documentation. So the other lines are communication and the stakeholders. So in this methodology of Barbara Applebaum, they deal with several aspects. So the first thing is the material aspect. The second thing is the non-material aspects. So the conservator mostly deals with the material aspects. The curator knows also about the non-material aspects. So then you have object-specific information. That is also something that the conservator does. He thinks about the objects and what is specific to this kind of objects. And we notice, Bart and I went to Museum Sejarah, and I was trained as a wooden artifacts conservator, so I went a little bit wild about all the woods that I saw and all the connections and all the things. And Bart was less enthusiastic than I was. So the other thing is that you do have non-object specific information, and that is more like a cultural information. Like if we treat objects in the Netherlands of Indonesian, then we probably need information of people from Indonesian to treat the objects. Do we see the right things? Because people of Indonesian do probably know much more about the objects. So how do we do that? The first thing, as a conservator, do you do the physical examinations and the analysis? Like this. And the non-object specific information, you look like the material properties and the deterioration studies. So then you maybe need a scientific person. So the non-material aspects here are history of the object, valuation, projected future. So that deals with knowledge of the conservators. And the last thing is that the art history of the object. And also in this segment, which is at the moment in Holland, in the Netherlands important, is that you also include groups, you include other stakeholders, like people who use this product still. So here you see the whole line. So first you had the creation of the object. So the object looked really nice. Then you use at the value, you look at the state it is now. You look to the aesthetic, historical, and the rarity, and then you treat it and you have the new object. So, what I wanted to tell you in this talk, I want to tell you about the material-based conservation that was with experts, and we now much more go to the people-based conservation. So we involved the values that we see, and we also involve the communities to work with people so that we can really go back to a state that is useful for the people and for the museums to use it. Thank you.